Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is the first in my practice session series for the EX467 Red Hat Certified Specialist in Managing Automation with Ansible Automation Platform exam. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who's watching, if you haven't subscribed yet, to click that subscribe button. As the name of the video implies, these are my practice sessions for the exam. My exam is just over 2 weeks away, and this is my opportunity to go through all of the posted objectives and either demonstrate whatever the thing is in the objectives or explain whatever concept the objective is concerned with the goal of, at the end of the video, I'll do a self-assessment and I will either feel pretty confident about the objective for the exam or not so. And if that is the case, I'm not confident with the objective, I have about 2 weeks to do a bit of brushing up. These should not be considered tutorials, nor should they be considered authoritative information, though I do try to have the information accurate since I'm preparing for the exam. But I am learning right along with you, so I would not consider these to be tutorial materials. I put them out on the internet in hopes of folks that are preparing for these exams. Some of the things I'm doing might give you some ideas on how to better prepare yourself. But again, these should not be considered tutorials. In the first set of objectives, we're looking at installing the Private Automation Hub and installing the Automation Controller. I'm combining these into one video because really it's the same process for both, and we'll be using the same item for that. So let me go into my terminal and we will get started. Go into my downloads directory. And a couple of things on how to get the installer. These I have downloaded from Red Hat. You have the setup bundle and then the setup. The difference between the setup bundle and setup is bundle is everything that you could possibly need as far as the initial setup of your Ansible automation platform. This is useful if you need to do an offline installation. I'll be using the setup bundle for this is because what I've practiced with the most. The just regular setup bundle has kind of the basic bits for kickstarting it, and then during the installation process, it'll be reaching out to Red Hat Content Delivery Network and getting all of the bits that you need. Another way of doing the installation is by enabling the Ansible Automation Platform repositories from Subscription Manager and installing I think the name of the package is Ansible Automation Installer, or maybe Ansible Automation Platform Installer. I can't remember that off the top of my head. It's probably something I need to practice between now and the exam, just in case that you actually do have to do a full installation on the exam. But what that will do, once you install that package, it's going to dump files into the opt directory that will be the same as what I'm about to untar here. So let's do our tar xvf. Yep, that's what I want. We're going to go and do the setup bundle. And as you can see, it has a bunch of RPMs in that bundle, which if you were to just do the setup, it's not going to have all the RPMs. It'll be pulling those down from Red Hat. So after a moment or so, it finishes, and we have a folder with a ridiculously long name. I'm going to rename that to just AAP 2.2, and that'll make life a little bit easier for me. And I think what will be in the opt directory is, I'm not sure if it'll be called AAP 2.2, but it'll be some folder that is basically going to have everything that we have here in the AAP 2.2 folder. And really what happens is the setup.sh is going to be calling a series of playbooks, of Ansible playbooks, and this is going to be installed on all of your different nodes, really via Ansible, which is, in my opinion, kind of a nifty thing. Ansible, installing Ansible, and get some inception going on there. So I have done some preparation prior to this. If I go back to my home directory, see some setup.yml and inventory and patch and a couple of things to prepare my systems for the setup. And let me just cat etc hosts. And you will see I have several systems on my lab that I have several VMs that I've created that I've used throughout my my preparation. All of these VMs are set up to have SSH key-based authentication, both with my user and I believe I did it for the root account as well. I have also connected to all of these with SSH at least once, so that way the SSH keys have been trusted. Let's see, what else have I done with them? I don't think I did firewall configuration on them because I believe the playbooks are going to handle that as far as the database node and such. Speaking of, you do not necessarily need to have a separate database server for this. The only real prerequisite is that you cannot, if you're going to be using Private Automation Hub cannot coexist on the controller. That's from Red Hat's documentation, and I'm pretty sure the playbook is going to check to make sure that you're not trying to put them on the same thing. I'm not sure outside of just Red Hat does not want it done that way, what other technical issues come with it. Probably the fact that, they're both going to have web servers in them that are showing the application, even though you could probably get the web server set to where it can handle multiple URLs and such. But just know that a Private Automation Hub and the actual automation controller cannot be on the same VM. I do have a GitLab server that, when I eventually do push stuff to a repository, I have that set up. My little node servers are the things that we'll be running playbooks against. And one of the objectives later on is going to talk about automation mesh. And so I will eventually have a second automation controller that I'll be setting up. The actual setup takes about 30 minutes. Each time I've run through it, it's been anywhere from like 28 to 30 minutes. So it's right about there. I'm kind of hoping on the exam that we do not have to set this up from scratch, because even though the exam's a 4-hour exam, that's 30 minutes is a non-trivial chunk of time. And maybe if you do have to set this up from scratch on the exam, maybe there's some other objectives that you can be working on in the meantime, so you don't just have to sit there and wait 30 minutes for it to be set up. But either way, it's explicitly said install automation controller and install private automation hub, so we're going to have to do it. Or we might not have to do it on the exam, but we have to be prepared to do it. So let me go back into our folder here. And we're going to go into the inventory. This is really where we set up all of the stuff that we need to set for the installer script to run. So we'll start with the automation controller. In my lab environment, that's going to be lab-controller.internal egslab.com. We're not going to be setting any special variables for the automation controller yet. It has peers equals execution nodes. We're not doing separate execution nodes right now. So really it's just the automation controller itself. And as you can see, we are not setting up execution nodes. For Automation Hub, this is our private automation hub if you want to make one. We are going to be making one with this. So that's going to be labhub.internal egslab.com. We are going to be using an external database, so that'll be labdb.internal.egslab.com. We're not doing any SSO stuff. And so the next part of the inventory are really going to be all of the variables that are used to do some of the initial configuration of both, in our case, automation controller, private automation hub, as well as the database that's going to be set up for all of our stuff. Now this is written in an INI inventory format. I believe this will also work with YAML, but I have a feeling on the exam, if we're having to do this, it's going to be in the INI format, so I don't see really any value in changing this to YAML. But if you wanted to, I suppose you could do that. So for our admin password, let's see, what do I want to use for this? We'll do secret to everybody. That's going to be too long to type. We'll just do secret. Now, of course, in a production environment, you would not make your admin password secret, but this is just for our setting of stuff up. So We don't necessarily have to be super secure for this. PG host, this is going to be our database server. Now, if you were not doing a separate database server, you could leave this blank, and I believe it's going to install it. I think it's going to install it on the controller, maybe, or it'll do a, oh no, I think what it will do is install PostgreSQL on both the controller and the automation hub. But if we have time, we might test that. You can name your database whatever you like and set a password. Again, for this, I'm just going to be using secret. We're going to keep the SSL mode on prefer. Now, this is a thing that when I'm doing my installation tests, I got some kind of strange behavior out of. In theory, you can set this registry URL. This is for your execution environment images. You can set this to be your private automation hub, and so everything is just being served out of that private automation hub versus grabbing it from Red Hat. We'll try that and see if that works. I have a feeling it's going to fail because it has failed for me a couple of times. I'm not 100% sure why it failed, but maybe we can figure that out with this. Otherwise, you can put in your registry.redhat.io credentials, which is basically the credentials to your Red Hat account. Another thing I remember when I was doing the other practice sessions for the first Ansible exam, not first, but I think it's EX467 was the name of that exam. It's only been a month, or a month and a half or so, but it feels like an eternity. With that, when I set up a automation controller, I had to use like a token that I got from a registry within Red Hat. I don't remember that exactly off the top of my head, but doing some tests with this, just my actual registry.redhat credentials worked. But for this, we're going to try to use the private automation hub. And of course that's kind of strange. So I'm using Vert Manager or rather, I guess, Vert Viewer within Vert Manager for my VM. And sometimes it times out like that. I could probably set that somewhere. You can probably hear the rain that's going on as well. It is boiling hot in Georgia. And so I welcome the rain right now. Georgia in the United States, for those that might be watching that are not from the United States. So we're going to be using the default administrator credentials for the private automation hub, and this in theory should work. I'm not going to set this to true, and one of the reasons I'm not is it's like if this fails, having this set to true, it's unable to push the images to the automation hub, and that is strange. It's like I think it uses rclone to do that, or either rclone or rsync, and I found some screwiness for setting this to true. In theory, what you would do is you would set this to true, and then and your automation controller is automatically going to be set up to be pulling the images from the hub registry, which I believe is what the comment is saying. I guess we can set this to true. We'll see what happens. All right, the receptor listener port, that is for automation mesh. That's a port that is where your peering communication and such happens. So automation hub admin password, I'm going to make that be secret. We are also going to have its database living on labdb.egslab.com. We'll do good old secret as the password for that. 5432 is a standard port for PostgreSQL, so we're not going to be changing that. And there's all sorts of other little things that you can tweak with this. Automation services catalog. This I don't know much about, but when I was trying to look into it, it looks like it is going away for Ansible Automation Platform 2.4, and there is no mention of it in the objectives. And so I'm going to be blissfully unaware of what catalog does. And then lastly, we're going to work with some certificates because I don't want to deal with having SSL errors. And so what I did was actually make me a little root certificate and used it to sign a few certificates and have everything trust those certificates. So let me go into here And what I did was make a multi-SAN certificate, so I only have one cert for everything, which makes life much nicer. So EGS Lab CA.CRT is the cert. And effectively what this is going to do is install this cert on all of the nodes, and or in this case it's going to install it on the controller, the private automation hub, and the database server, and run the update certs. Since I'm using the same certificates for the web server, I'm going to define that here in the all variables section. You could do this as variables. Like, let me go back up. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if we wanted for the automation controller, if we had a different certificate for that, we could specify, put a space, and then specify this variable value for the controller. But in this case, we are doing this for everything. And I think I named the key just AAP lab key. Yep. Well, this kind of blows my idea, out of the water as far as like the one cert to rule them all and just do web server SSL once. But the same thing applies. If you wanted, you could specify the web server SSL cert variable along with the host for automation hub. Thankfully, we do this only once. Since we're using certs, go ahead and turn this on for Postgres. I guess probably is expecting people to have a different cert for each of these, which would make sense. It's not outside the realm of possibility. I just didn't, I should have documented how I did this. Maybe I'll do that and make a video about it. It was a rigmarole getting this little root cert and getting it signed and with all the SAN names and all that. So I just did the one cert for everything. And that is it as far as what you need to do with the inventory. Now, if you wanted, you could turn on the insights collection. That'll be something that comes up a little bit later with initial configuration. And as you saw, there are several other things that can be specified as well. So we'll save that. And now time to run setup.sh. Now there's a couple of gotchas with this. First of all, let's clear our screen here. And we're just going to straight up run it and let's see what happens. And during this process, you will see lots of warnings. You will see things that have failed, and you will see things that fail and are ignored as well. All right, and we have our first failure. And what it complains is that that UUID is, or not UUID, the UID is not 0. So to not be root and to get around this, we are going to pass it. Well, let me do this first. What? Let me stop that. I'm surprised that actually, I want it to tell me my command line options. That's unusual. Well, let me do -H. There it is. I thought I could just feed it trash and it would just automatically do that. Anyway, I got a little ahead of myself. Just running this will do the setup. If we want to pass other parameters outside of these initial little things that we have to do an extra -- separator. Otherwise, I'm about to try to become, if I just do this -B, it's going to try to back up whatever is already out there for our Ansible automation platform environment. So let's do setup.sh, double ticks, and then become. And so this should get rid of that first error. There should be another one that comes up. Famous last words in IT should, right? Yep, there it is. So in my lab environment, I do not have, I'm not giving these like the full recommended amount of RAM and such that, that Red Hat says you have to have. And I'm doing that mainly because I don't have, a ton of RAM in my environment. And I am not, I have potentially four servers that I'm going to be managing with this. And there's only, just the one user, me and all that. And so for the lab environment, we really don't need all of those resources, but the installer is going to be checking for it. So to get around this, we will specify an extra var, which we could do with just -E. And the extra var that we're going to be doing, let's see if I can remember this. Was it ignore pre-flight errors Not showing my underscores. Huh, it's not showing my little underscores. I promise you I'm typing them. Ignore pre-flight errors, false. So now it should run. And this, again, is going to take a while. So what I'm going to do for this, wait, isn't that what it was? Complaining about RAM. I thought it was ignore pre-flight errors. I'm fairly sure that's what that was. Oh, I just thought of it. It is not underscores. It needs to be dashes. Now let's try it. At least now I think it's dashes. It's the only. I'm fairly certain the text ignore pre-flight errors is the correct thing. So this is, nope, it wasn't dashes either. And all of you watching this probably have been laughing and realizing the clear error that I'm making here. Truth be told, I did check Dr. Google real quick because I'm like 100% sure it's ignore pre-flight errors, and I gave myself the pause and moment of doubt with underscore versus dashes, and it is underscore. That was the thing that I checked, and of course it's doing exactly what I told it to do. Ignore pre-flight errors, false. So let's try this with true now, and this should, famous last words in IT, work. So first video of the practice session and making boneheaded mistake like that. Oh well, that's why we have the practice sessions, right? To prepare you for the exam and to get the boneheaded decisions out of your head. And as you probably just saw it scroll by there, it's doing the pre-flight checks and it is ignoring any of the issues that it comes up with. So again, this install is going to take about 30 minutes. At this point, I'm going to pause the video and I will come back either at the next error or come back when it has finished. And we're back. So the error was not what I expected, but instead I clearly had an incorrect name put into one of the inventory items. So let's go back into the inventory, see where I made my mistake. Yep, lab database, internal. There it is, internal. So rather than reverting a snapshot and trying it all again, I'm simply going to just run the setup again and let's see if it will A, work, and then B, if it goes any faster this time. All right, so fixing the name of the database server and the inventory seems like that solved the problem and we have a successful installation. I am a bit surprised though. I was expecting to see errors for the part about pushing the execution environment images because I've had that before in the past, but apparently that was not a thing. So just to verify the installation actually did work, let's go to, I'll start with Lab Hub. All right, that works. Admin secret, because that was the credential we used. All right, I was able to log in there. Yep, and we see the execution environments that were pushed up. Now I'm not going to go into configuring the controller in this practice session. I'm going to do that as a separate one, but I do want to verify that it actually did install and we can log in. Yep, and when you log in the first time, it's going to you're going to have to register your system and get the subscription for Ansible Automation Platform. So I'll talk about that in the next video. But it looks like this was successful. Obviously, there's a connection to the database because this is running. But what we can do, SSH to the database, and I'm just curious to see, yeah. So it has opened 5432 TCP, which I would expect it to do, and I'm fairly sure I did not do that beforehand. I need to double check, but in case something does fail, I guess that would be something to do as a troubleshooting step. Let's see. Was there anything in setup.sh I wanted to look at other than just looking at the script? Yeah, set stuff. I know it will talk about somewhere in here it shows that it's running playbooks. But anyway, the last thing that I did want to show is what happens if you do the package base installation. I wanted to at least show what that folder looks like in opt. All right, so let's see what repos I have available. Okay, so it's already installed the or rather it has already enabled the Automation Platform 2.2 repo, which I might have done that ahead of time. I honestly can't remember. So let's search. Can't remember the name of the package off the top of my head. That's an Ansible Automation Platform installer. So if I were to copy that and we install this, again, there's really no need to do this because we did the installation the other way. But what that does, if I were to go into the opt directory, we will see Ansible Automation Platform installer, and this should look very similar to what we had before, whereas we would have the inventory that we go through and fill out all the bits that we need, and then the setup script. So I think for the objective, install private automation hub, install automation controller, this is a pass. I believe I will be able to do that. I'm hoping we don't have to do that on the exam, because again, you can look at the time up here at the top when you're watching the video to see how long these attempts made, but I'm fairly sure it's about 30 minutes or so, and that's a non-trivial amount of time. But the installation process is actually pretty straightforward. You have to know your little bits, and the key is go ahead and get like SSH configuration and such already set, at least on the three main pieces that you may be installing in this. So I hope you found this video helpful and useful for you. Again, not to be considered a tutorial, but rather just showing a way of possibly practicing for the objectives. If you did find the video useful, make sure you do click like. That does help. If you are a returning subscriber, thanks again for watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do click the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when new content is available. And as always, thank you for your time.